खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत, खुद्दाम अहमदियत.
Jazakumullah. Tika, we have Osama now. Osama, if you can quickly jump on, we would love to see your face as well. The face of fitness, of men's health for Dam night. Osama, just before we go into everything, if you could just introduce yourself as well to everyone.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
the brothers that don't know you the first time seeing you. I know you've made your mark on Kahoot already, but now you're gonna talking in a different light now. And so let's
Is it too technical?
talk about your background a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
yeah.
Right. So, about my background, my name's Osama Saifullah. I'm 21 years of age. Growing up, I grew up in Belgium. I lived there for 10 years. The Jamaat there was very small. We were the only MDs in the whole city. In fact, only Muslims in the city. So it was very different to how it is here. Our mosque there was a garage actually. It was a garage in one of the MD's house, and it was about 1 hour away. So that's a bit about me growing up. I moved here in 2010. After moving here, secondary school I had here, college. Now I'm at university. I work as a Thai boxing instructor, so I'm a coach. I've been working as a coach for the last 3 years. When I first started, I was the youngest coach in the Midlands. So West Midlands, I was 19 years old at the time. And it was a big challenge for me because normally you see coaches, they're normally 35 to 40 years old. That's the average age. And I was only 19, so it was a very, very big challenge. Alhamdulillah, with the help of God, came out successful. I produced 2 British champions and 3 Midlands champions. So, and still going strong. So, inshallah, after lockdown, looking to make more champions. That's a bit about myself. Um, so, yeah, what me and Murabi Saab have come up with, Murabi Saab mostly, he's got a vision. He wants us to kind of integrate fitness into our activities and give it more importance, which I agree with very strongly. So, we're still coming up with a name. Right now, I've got a title here, Lockdown Workout Routine, but it's probably going to be K Fit from next week, unless Murabi comes up with a better name himself. So I'll start off with the physical benefits of exercising, right? They're quite obvious, but we can overlook them sometimes. So we've got muscular strength. So with muscular strength, obviously that's obvious when you're going to exercise. The way it basically works scientifically, we've got fibers in our muscles, in case you didn't know. And what happens is these fibers, they will break down every time we work out. And then the body, it will grow the fibers back stronger because it doesn't want them to rip again. So that's the science behind it. That's the way it works. Improve posture. So a lot of us these days, especially because we're sitting down all day, our posture can become very damaged. Like our shoulders are kind of rolling forwards and stuff like that. Exercise, it gets your whole core muscles engaged, so it will improve your posture. One thing improved posture really helps with is that I find that people take you a lot more serious when you're at work, at university, or you're doing a presentation. Could be anything. Improved posture is always good for your body language. Psychologists here, they say that 70% of communication is done through body language, not actual verbally. So body language is very important. Bone strength. Coming on to bone strength, we've all got bones. They're all strong. We all know that. But some people have weaker bones. Some people have stronger bones. When you're working out, similar to what happens with your muscles, the same thing will happen to your bones. You will get microfractures and they will grow back stronger. Your bones start to calcify. Once they calcify, your bones become stronger and stronger over time. Ligament strength. So ligaments are basically, they hold 2 bones together. So you've got tendons and you've got ligaments. They're both very similar. They both work very similar as well. So ligaments here, they connect one bone to the other. So let's say you've got your shin bone, which is your tibia, and you've got your bone coming from your thigh, which is your tibia bone, femur. So those two will be connected through ligaments. It will make these stronger as well, which leads to less injuries and stuff like that. Okay. Then the most important one here, cardiovascular benefits. So that's your heart, basically, your heart, your veins, breathing is going to help with all of this physical exercise. This is why it's very important. Okay. Moving on, psychological benefits, which I find to be more important than the physical ones. Okay. Especially today, in this day and age. A lot of people suffer with mental illnesses, whether they're aware of it or not. So depression, anxiety, stuff like this, scientifically, is proven to boost your mood. On a scientific level, basically what happens is chemicals are released in your brain, endorphins, and they will make you happy, basically, in simple words. Decreased stress, again, that's linked to the chemicals that are released when you're exercising. There are going to be chemicals released into your bloodstream, and it basically works very similar to how if you've learnt about kind of nicotine and stuff like that, the way they sit in your receptors and they make you happy is very similar to that. The chemicals, they'll go sit in your receptors in the brain, which will make you happy, increase dopamine, stuff like that. Increase self-esteem and self-confidence. This links again to the decreased stress and countering depression and anxiety. It will in turn, it will increase your self-esteem, make you confident, and this is going to help you everywhere, whether it's work, whether it's studies, anything like that. Better sleep. Okay, after a good workout, you're not going to have energy to stay awake. You're not going to have energy to waste your time looking at anything. Okay, so I find personally it helps a lot with sleep. After a good workout, you get your solid 7 or 8 hours of sleep. I sleep a bit less, but normally the doctor says 7 hours is good. Brain boost. After working out, that's when I usually open my laptop or my computer and I do my university work. The reason for this is I've seen a difference, a very big difference, as to how I study before working out and how I study after working out. Uh, this has a lot to do with kind of the chemicals which I mentioned earlier. You're able to focus more. You've got more oxygen rushing to your brain and stuff like that, which helps you learn better. Then you've got the hormonal benefits. Okay, so this is a bit deeper. The reason I've put this in here is because if you think about it, uh, if you go back before the 20th century or the 19th century, humans, especially males, we were kind of always working physical work, right? Then after the introduction of the internet, which led to males, humans, us sitting down a lot, which is not what we were initially kind of designed to do, if you know what I'm trying to say. So for this reason, in this day and age, when everything's computerized and we've got the internet to help us and we've got so many other things, it's very important to kind of integrate exercise into our day, so we're not letting go of that natural instinct to do physical work. So these are the benefits. Now, hopefully this will encourage you to work out, but just in case it doesn't, I've added in dangers of not exercising. So what happens if we don't exercise? Inactivity and being sedentary causes more deaths around the world than cigarette smoking or diabetes, according to a study published by these guys, the Lancet or Lancet, I don't know how to pronounce it. But so we can see how serious this is. We all know how much cigarettes are discouraged. We've got labels on every cigarette box, adverts as well sometimes. We've got disclaimers saying, you know, smoking can cause cancer. So we know how serious this is. Diabetes, again, we know how serious this is. It can change lives around. A lot of people suffer with it and their whole lives change. Not exercising is causing more deaths in cigarettes and diabetes, okay, which should give you kind of an idea of how dangerous not exercising can be. Your muscles weaken, lose bulk, right? So these are your physical muscles, but also the muscles you need for breathing. Now, breathing is very important. Apart from my passion for Thai boxing, because that's what I teach, I've also got a passion for cars. So if you look at it that way, you've got the engine of a car. It's got an air intake, right? The air intake is very important. Without the air intake, there's not going to be an ignition. Humans work in a very similar way. Without oxygen, without sufficient air intake, we can't function properly. Our brain, our muscles, our heart, everything will kind of slow down. When you're not exercising the muscles, the diaphragm is the muscle beneath your lungs, which is basically what you use to breathe. You're pulling air in with the diaphragm. That will weaken, which affects how you breathe, how much air you're taking in, which is going to affect your whole body. And the large muscles in your legs and your arms, they're going to obviously weaken as well. It doesn't sound too bad on the presentation, but if I explain that a bit, you've got your biggest muscle in your body is your quadricep, which is in your leg. And then obviously your arms are not as important as your legs. Your legs are very important. Then you've got the big muscles running down your back. If these weaken up, you can have very serious problems when you get into older age. You can get a hunchback. You can have slip discs, which is very painful, and it will stop you from walking. You wouldn't be able to run anymore after your 50s, after your 40s. So it's very important. High blood pressure. So exercising is going to regulate your blood pressure very well, which is very important because high blood pressure can lead to a lot of complications later on. Heart disease, your veins can basically, they can weaken. A lot of stuff can happen if we're not taking care of ourselves. Now, this is very important as well. The last point I've put here is if you have none of these risk factors, you don't have heart disease, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have diabetes, you don't have obesity, you don't have high cholesterol, even then inactivity can cause heart disease. So even if you've got no other underlying factors, a lack of exercise can lead to you still having complications with your heart. And your heart is basically the engine that drives your whole body, right? So very important. This is what doctors say. So for most healthy adults, the Department of Health and Human Services recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity a week. Now, aerobic activity is basically activity you do above the ground. Then you've got anaerobic, which is basically your swimming and stuff like that. So aerobic activity simply means any sort of activity above the ground. So you've got football, basketball. Personally, for me, it's Thai boxing. Could be anything for you. And they say 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic exercise. So moderate is your stuff like jogging, walking, maybe tennis, table tennis, stuff like that. And your vigorous exercise is going to be stuff where you're sprinting, you're getting out of breath. Okay, so that could be football, for example, because you're running a lot. Now, this is what they say. They say you can do either one. Me personally, I would recommend doing both. So you want about 150 minutes of moderate exercise where you're doing something moderate, jogging, walking, and then 75 minutes of vigorous exercise as well. The reason I say this is because we've got two types of muscles in our body. So you've got fast twitch muscles and you've got slow twitch. Yes, slow twitch muscles. And the slow twitch, that's more for your stuff you're doing all the time. So when you're walking, these are going to be engaged. You can walk for 1 hour. You won't feel tired. It's because the slow twitch muscles, they don't get tired easily. The fast twitch ones, they're used for vigorous exercise. So let's say you're picking something up from the ground, that's going to engage your fast twitch muscles. So we want to make sure we're working both of those, not just one of them. So that's why I would recommend doing both. So your 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise will engage your slow twitch muscles, and your vigorous exercise will engage your fast twitch muscles. So we made a little target for the week ahead. It looks like a lot here, but I'll explain it. So there's 168 hours in a week, which is a lot, believe it or not. Doctors recommend 225 minutes, which works out to be just below four hours. Okay, so out of 168 hours, just 4 hours you need to spare. Okay, which isn't a lot at all. 45 minutes a day, and you'll get your 4 hours. What I've put on here for each one of you, hopefully you'll do it, is walking and jogging, walking or jogging. So that depends on your fitness level. How fit are you? I know a lot of the Qadam in this group chat play football regularly, so jogging shouldn't be an issue. Question of how long should we jog for? I mean, that's going to depend from person to person. Me personally, I like to jog for 3 miles, and I'll do that 3 times a week. But that just depends on you. You're going to have to see what's best for you. 100 press-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats. Okay, so that's for the week ahead until next Friday. Looks like a lot when I've put it like this, but it's not. If you work it out, you divide your week into 5 days. So you're working out 5 days out of the 7. You're just doing 20 press-ups, 20 sit-ups, and 20 squats every day. Before you do this, I'd highly recommend warming up. You can do this with star jumps, you can do it with burpees, or you can do it with a light jog for 10 minutes. The reason I'm saying warm up is because I mentioned ligaments earlier and muscles. What happens is when your body's cold, your ligaments are also very cold, and they're like an elastic band. So when an elastic band is when it's cold, it will snap very easily. So your muscles and your ligaments and your tendons, they work in the same way. You want to make sure they're nice and warm before you're actually going on to exercise. So I'd say do a little warm up and then do 20 of each. Obviously, if you can do this very easily, you can do 40, you can do 50, anything that works for you. And if it's your first time, you can break the 20 up into 3 sets or 4 sets where you're doing 5 and then you take a break. You do another 5, you take a break. Okay. Moving on from this, I've put in a verse of the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 196. And spend for the cause of Allah, and cast not yourselves into ruin with your own hands, and do good. Surely Allah loves those who do good. I'm just going to focus on the middle of this this verse. And cast not yourselves into ruin with your own hands. Right, so this can mean a lot of things. It can mean your actions as well. So I think Murabi Saab will have a better understanding of that. But from a sporting perspective, I would say cast not yourselves into ruin with your own hands. It can also mean don't harm your body with your own hands. And one of the ways in which you can stop from harming your body is by exercising. In another hadith, I haven't put it in the presentation, but I was reading it not long ago. There was a hadith about how your body has a right over you. So your actual body, which is yours, it also has a right over you. So you need to look after it. I'll welcome any questions now if you've got enough time, Ruby Sab.
Yeah, plenty of time, plenty of Jazakallah for great
If anyone's got any
presentation.
questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yep.
Assalamu alaikum, Osama.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is that I can even get your feedback on this, Murabisa, but in Islam, any sort of sports such as boxing, MMA, martial arts, or UFC that that means you're physically in contact with another person and you're you're touching another person. Is that allowed in Islam?
So just while I was making this presentation, I came across a hadith where there was a wrestler, and he was a champion at the time. He wasn't a Muslim. He hadn't accepted Islam. He was an idol worshipper, and he was a champion at the time. He was undefeated, and he came across the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. By the way, Murabi Sahib, correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, because I'm just saying it off the top of my head. So he came in contact with the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he challenged the Holy Prophet. He said, we'll have a wrestling match, and my gods are supporting me. Your God can support you, and let's see who wins. So the Holy Prophet, he agreed to the challenge, and then just with one move in the first time, he got the champion on the ground. And then the champion got up and he said, we'll go again. And then the second time, the Holy Prophet, he got him on the ground again. And then the third time again. And after the third time, the champion said to the Holy Prophet, you can take as many sheep as you want. So the Holy Prophet said, I'm not interested in your wealth, or rather you accept Islam. And then the champion, basically, he was scared of what people would say. He was like, what's my family going to say? What are the people going to say? So he never accepted Islam at the time. But this was an account of the Holy Prophet ﷺ engaging in a wrestling match. Wrestling is very different to what I do, because Thai boxing is striking. So you're actually hitting the other person. So I think there are some Muslims who say it's ethically wrong. But wrestling, we can say that the Holy Prophet done wrestling himself. So I can say that. Murabi Sab, anything from you?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's nothing wrong with, we have physical sports every day of our lives. If there was no physical touching, then Muhammad Ali wouldn't be the great man he was, or even in the Jamaat, with Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah taking part in kabaddi himself, kabaddi being a sport which is purely contact. um, physical contact, you need it to strengthen your body as well. You can only go so far as to do things which are non-contact, which are by yourself. But to really strengthen your body and strengthen your mind as well, you sometimes need to have an opponent in front of you to overcome. And as someone said, it was a practice during the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Wrestling was common. Wrestling was a thing. They were living in a time of war. If they didn't have physical contact, then how would these guys go into battle? Who would they be fighting against? They can't fight against the air, can they? So they were trained for that very purpose. And how are they going to train? How are they going to train against an opponent? Of course, they had to do some sort of physical activity or physical training to firstly give them the courage to overcome the opponent, and also physically to overcome them as well. So nowadays, of course, your question is valid, but there's obviously a limit to everything. You have to look at the purpose of why you're doing it, and if you're doing it with the right intention, and if the outcome is positive. And if it's not positive, if you're just going around beating up people for no reason, of course, then it's wrong. But if you're doing it for a good intention, and if you're actually improving in your physical self, which is again, your body, your soul needs to live in a strong body. And both go hand in hand. And the stronger your body is, the better you're giving your soul something to be in as well. And so all of these things put together, even you talk about the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was physically very capable of many things. Even I remember an incident about when they were breaking rocks, and the companions, they couldn't do it. So they gave it to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and with one strike, he said Allahu Akbar, and he managed to do that himself. And that showed how much inner power, inner strength he had. And some of you'd know, and everyone else should know as well, that when you put your mind to something, and that mind power that the Holy Prophet ﷺ had, matched with his physical abilities, he was able to overcome that rock which was in front of him, which no one else could do. So all of these things combined teach us that physically there's something in that as well. There's something that we need to look at and we shouldn't ignore. And with the verse which you poured out as well, which is very fitting, I would say. Your future is in your hands, and they say you are what you eat. So all of that shows us that we need to be careful how we live our life. We're all young right now, but the older ones would tell you that there's a time where your metabolic rate starts to drop, and it catches up to you, and by that time it can be too late. So now is the time to get yourselves into the routine and make exercise. I'll put myself before anyone else. And this lockdown has really taught me that it's a lot more difficult when it's in your own hands, when you have to make the choice. Sometimes things are already set up, there's football and you can just go there and start playing. But when you have to make that decision, it becomes very, very difficult. And sometimes you need just a little push, just to get yourself out there and start working out. So yeah, Jazakallah, Sama and Umar for that question. MashaAllah. Is anyone else has any questions?
Quick thing is, could you send us a picture of the targets, please, of the 100 push-ups, the squats, and the other thing, please?
Yeah.
You want pictures of how to do it? You mean the
No,
demonstration?
no, the target itself, the numbers.
For the target itself, sure.
Yeah.
What I'll do, I'll go back a slide. If you just take a screenshot of this, and then it's all on here.
Yeah. You can also share it on the group, and then we'll push it out
I'll do,
as well.
I'll do that.
That's
share
good,
the
actually.
I think it's amazing just to see the total. You broke it down to 20 push-ups, a day, which is it's very easy. But when you look at it, what you're accumulating throughout the week is incredible. I know jogging will be probably the hardest thing for most people. That's probably you have to gear up for it. You have to run out, do that. But the rest of it, sit-ups, star jumps, and squats and burpees. All of these things you can do within your own home. You don't need any equipment. So this is just a small encouragement for everyone, and I'm looking forward to it as well myself. I remember during the first lockdown, all of us were on it. Where everyone's doing their own little exercises and thinking we're going to keep this regular. But myself included, we sort of faded out a bit. So it's about time that we get back on it, so that we can start challenging Osama and Kahoot as well. So I just wanted to. I had a question as well. If no one else has any questions, many of us would say that we don't need exercise. We're fine. We're living our life and we're not feeling any disadvantages of not doing exercise. So what could you say to that, and what can you say to push us to maybe start doing it?
Right. So there's an example which my dad gives me all the time whenever I ask him. It's not about exercise. He's used in another context, but I can apply it here, so I'm going to say it. In Pakistan, basically, when he was younger, he lived in a small village, and they used to have wells there where they would get their water from. In the wells, there would be frogs, and the frogs would reproduce in the wells. The frog would be born there, it would live there, it would die there. And my dad always gave me the example of those frogs, that for those frogs, the well is just that well. They never come out of it. They don't know what's outside. I feel like exercise, until you do this, until you do physical exercise, you're just like the frog that's in the well. You don't know the whole world out there. That's the best way I can put it. You won't know how much it can change the way you think, how fast you are, how fast you react to things, whether they're physical things or whether it's just an idea you get in your head, whether it's a problem you're solving. I feel like exercise, it's got a lot to do with the amount of oxygen your brain gets. It is brain food, isn't it? Oxygen. So I feel like exercise it's not just gonna help you physically, it's gonna help you in every aspect of your life. You can learn better. That's the best way I can put it. It's like a whole different world out there. You can do everything better once you start exercising.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's something in it, because even you look at the Khulafa, even though they have such a busy routine, they always take time out. I know even with Beloved Azor, he's got a cycling machine in his home that he uses very regularly, and that keeps the mind running. And I know this because when I was in Jamia, we were studying for our final exams. If you know anything about the final exams in Jamia, it's crazy. You're studying a whole 7 years course into that, that one exam. And straight after one exam, you have the next exam the next day, and that's also covering everything you've learned in the past 7 years. And you're constantly just studying. And all of us, we got to a point where we thought, like, what are we doing? we're studying like crazy people. We're not even exercising. We're not even taking our minds off it. So what we'd do is we would go every half an hour. We'd go play table tennis. We'd go to the gym quickly, do some weights, and then we'll go back to our studies. And we realized that when we started doing that, our minds started becoming a lot more fresh, and we started learning things a lot quicker than we were if we were not doing any exercise. So that really was an eye opener for me. So yeah, definitely there's some great benefit in doing it. So our aim, guys, obviously we can't come to your homes and start making you do them. Osama would have found it easier if it was that way. But this is a small encouragement, man. There's small targets throughout the week which we can all do. Set reminders on your phones, and let's try see if next week we can improve on ourselves. I'm just going to go to a few of you. Anas, you used to play a lot of sport before lockdown. I remember we used to play football together as well, and maybe cricket. So has it been impacted since lockdown? And would you say that you've become more sedentary since the lockdown started? If Anas, you're there. Taking that, I'll take that as a no. As I have Umar, I'll go to you then. Umar, what would you say? Because I know you started developing a little belly since the lockdown started.
Yeah, no. I've always been active guy, and ever since lockdown just kicked in and COVID in 1 year, I've gained so much, and now I've got a belly. But it's been hard for me at the same time to stick to the routine to try and keep fit. But inshallah, I'm gonna try my best to work on it, to work on my belly. So
So, Summer, is there any tips you can give to get rid of a little belly that people start developing?
Right.
It's
So
sad to see.
I mean, a lot of the time, belly fat has a lot to do with posture. So when you think it's belly fat, it's actually just you being kind of crouched forward. So that's why your rolls are showing more. A very easy way of getting rid of belly fat is just working your back muscles, and then you'll kind of stand up more straight, and your belly will look like it's a bit less. And then apart from that, obviously you got to exercise to lose the fat. That's the other side of it.
Mm.
And
Any good back exercises you recommend
back, so
weight?
there's something you can do at home where you just lie down flat on your belly, and what you're going to do is lift all four of your limbs at the same time, right? So you're going to lift both arms and both legs at the same time. It's almost like you kind of do, if you imagine my hand as a body, you're doing this with all of your limbs, right? That's going to engage your lower back, your upper back, everything. And you want to do about 20 reps, take a rest for 30 seconds, 20 reps again, 30-second rest. Do 3 or 4 sets of that every day, and inshallah your posture, you'll see improvements within a week or two.
That's good. That's good tips. I think back is something which is neglected quite a lot. A lot of our bodies concentrate on the front, which is why we get that couch potato look of leaning forward. But yeah, the back is as important as the front. I'll go to Musli quickly. Musli is a keen basketballer. Musli, has your life been impacted quite a lot since the lockdown? I know you used to play quite a lot before in school and stuff.
Yeah, I can't like play basketball anymore with people. So
Do you
I
do
have
any
to go
form
on the
of
court
exercise?
now. What did you say?
I think, do you do any form of exercise while you're at home now?
Yeah, I do lots.
Yeah, would you want to
Yeah.
share what you do?
Yeah, I've got a routine.
That's good.
So, like, should I say it?
Yeah, go for it. Share this.
So like, I'll go on the treadmill for a bit, for like 10-20 minutes, and then I do like 50 to 60 push-ups in sets of 10 to 15 reps. And then I've got an ab routine, and then I'll probably do 100 squats a day.
MashaAllah. 100 squats a day.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention, Muslim is also a keen. You want to get into bodybuilding, don't you? You want to go.
Yeah. I'm only 16 though, so it's kind of hard right now.
Is there this misconception of when you can start bodybuilding?
Personally, myself, I started lifting weights when I was 13, and everyone used to say to me, "Stop! You know, you're gonna
get shrunk."
Yeah, you're gonna get shrunk." So I mean,
Others
if I
were
could go back, I would probably start a bit later. I'll probably start about 15, 16. But I mean, it depends from person to person because you know your early teenage years they're very different for everyone. Some people they'll hit puberty earlier, and some people will hit it later. It all depends on how strong your bones and how strong your muscles are. So I mean, if you feel like your bones are not strong enough to handle heavy weights, don't lift heavy because you could damage yourself. You could get injured. You know, I've met people that have injured themselves and they've been out for a year after making plans about I'm going to be this big next year, and then they're on crutches. So you got to be very careful. You have to learn what your body's like, what can it handle, what can't it handle. And with bodybuilding, especially heavy weights, there's a lot of injuries involved. Your knees, there's your biceps can tear very easily. There are your pecs. You got to take care of everything. But I mean, age-wise, it just depends from person to person, I think.
And does that also impact your height? As in, if you're any decrease in height, or if you want to go a bit taller, but then if you're lifting weights at a very young age, for example, if you haven't hit puberty or anything.
So there's a myth that when you lift weights early, you're going to stop growing.
Yeah.
Scientifically, it's not proven. So you will still grow even if you are lifting weights. However, your spine will compress. Spinal compression is temporary. It will last a week, 2 weeks, and then after that, it will go back to normal. Growth-wise, what it can basically stunt your growth if you get injured. If you get a back injury or a knee injury, and you're in bed, you can't move, then it will stunt your growth. Growth has a lot to do with genetics and what you're eating. So if your diet is good and you've got good genetics, you've got tall parents, then you're going to be tall. And yeah, I mean that's it really.
Someone's asking, how tall are you?
I'm 5'8", so I'm not tall. I'm not tall myself. I'm 5'8".
I can actually testify to that because I started when I was 13 as well, summer. And
Well,
people tell me the same, don't do, especially don't do back exercises, don't do deadlifts and squats. I'm 6'1", so I don't mind. I'm the tallest in the family. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to impact you. I was doing a lot of plyometrics training as well, especially for basketball, training to jump higher. So there's a lot of jumping involved, a lot of squats involved as well. So all of these things we were doing since we were young. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it will affect your growth. It's just you have to exercise in the right way. I think that's the key thing. And if you don't do that, then you can definitely, when you're young and you don't have that experience, then you are going to injure yourself. Guys, it's almost coming to namaz time. I just want to quickly share something with you guys as we're talking about exercise. This is a book written by Khalifa Rabi Rahimullah, extremely interesting, and I'll just take you to the content page of it. It's called Steps to Exercise. So this is written by Khalifa Rabi himself, and you can see the passion that he had, not just talking about the Islamic side of it, but also like small things like this, life and hard work, and things which are life lessons, and how your sport and your exercise will help you so much in your life. Becoming old before being young. This is a really interesting excerpt from Khalifa Sani Razillahu Anhu as well. And then no, he doesn't just stop there. He gives exercises as well, what we can do in our day. So guys, do give it a read, and maybe we should start implementing it. Osama, what do you think into our Khudam night as well? Just go through some bits of this book, and maybe we can learn a few things from Khalifa Rabi Rahimahullah as well.
Definitely.
So